better you'll be. So here's what this is. What I did was, just to run through it, is as I just pick up the aces, which I don't even have to say anything about, I just pick up these aces, place them together, and place them into your hand. So what that is I've got my break here, and I place these two aces underneath my thumb. And then I just gesture out to my right. And as I gesture out to my right, my thumb, oopsie, ooh, and I look to the left, and everyone looks to the left. And it totally psychologically erases the idea that the aces were ever brought to the top of the deck. And in effect, to the audience, they never were. Which is why, if you want to do this method before search and destroy, then you can cleanly drop these cards on top of the deck, say cut the cards, say the magic word, and the card goes in between. Now, you try, and we can go into search and destroy from there. Or, if you prefer, and lately this is exactly what I've been doing, everyone's freaked out at the end of search and destroy, pardon me, and I just go ahead and say, here, we'll try it one more time. We won't even use the deck. You take the aces, place them in your hand, place your other hand on top, right? And now you take that card without doing anything, and in the most direct magical way possible, put it right in their hands. So really, with that method, I've been now using that as a follow-up to search and destroy, which for the first time in my life is becoming the second phase of a 3-phase routine, right? And I call that trick, which is the first time I've shared it with anyone, this is called veggie sandwich because it's so lean.
Aaron is that also gluten-free for special needs?
Super gluten-free.
Good.
Super gluten-free. Okay, so now I want to talk very briefly about the nowhere pass, which is something that we did in the last trick, and we're going to do this to 3. Hey, Callie, you still with me?
Yes.
Yeah, you holding up okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Just a little. I yawn a little bit when I'm super excited about what's going to happen next. So just say stop.
Stop.
Take that card, look at it, show it to everyone, make sure they all know what it is. Well, this is such high definition. Place it back. Are you going to remember the card?
Yes.
Super important. If you don't remember the card, there's no music playing. So look at this. I'll leave your card right there in the center of the pack. Okay? 3 is the magic number. That's 1. That's 2. What was the card?
5 of diamonds.
The 5 of diamonds, yes? All right. So, all right, does anyone have a guess what this old chestnut is? It's a very old thing. Anyone call it? Oh, Dan. Dan is the first one to ever publish this dang move. What's it called, Dan?
Well, I know what the old chestnut is.
What's the old chestnut called?
Bluff pass.
All right, so raise your hand at home if you just don't really know what a bluff pass is. Oh, all right. Well, no, as long as one person asks. And I see you, dude. Thank you. Thank you for having the courage to raise your hand alone at your computer. Okay, so I'll explain what a bluff pass is, because I think still to this day it might be the stupidest idea in the entire history of card magic, maybe ever, okay? Just as an idea, it's super dumb. And so here's what it is. The idea is you say stop, and while you say stop, you take a card out of the deck. And while you're looking at the card, look over there, show it to everybody, everybody gets to look over there. And while you're showing it to everybody over there, I do this. Come back to my hands now. I do this. This is exactly what the picture looked like in the book I learned it from. What? Everything looks perfectly cool. Place it back in the middle. Of course, that's what's happening. And your card goes right in the middle. And so that's the bluff pass, right? And I know that hopefully that was funny to watch, because I've seen, when I was a kid, I used to see people do it that way all the time. They had all kinds of ways of doing it. They had all kinds of little ways to make sure that you could look there, right? But it's a lot like actually like driving under the influence, right? If anyone's looking to see what you've done wrong, it's gone way too far. They should never even think anything. You should not raise suspicion in the slightest. So the problem with this is, all of these efforts to get this thing looking fair are actually tipping off the audience that something's wrong. So it looks right, feels wrong. Now this is basically the situation with all of modern sleight of hand. Passes, palms, everyone's worried about making them look right and not noticing the fact that they feel wrong. which is one of the problems that we have to adjust for when we watch and learn a lot of magic on the internet, because it's all got to look right for the camera, which is super cool. But when we take it out into the real world to start doing it, it's got to feel right. And if it feels right, it's less important how it looks. Because if everyone feels great, they're not looking. They're really not. And that's a real hard thing to start to get hip to when you're trying to put the whole magic thing together, right? So if you want to go along with this at home, take 6 cards in your hand, which is what we do for Search and Destroy to get the card to the 7th position, and shake your hand out like this. Shake it out. And what I do is I actually hold those cards way up deep. Second join to the second finger and the join of the thumb. Now if you look at this illusion here, disillusion, isn't that great? Look at that. You can't see the whole cards there, right? But your mind sort of paints them all in. Because who would hold cards like that if they weren't there? It's a strangely nice little illusion. And the problem with the left hand is weird, right? Because you're in this one, you got to hold the whole deck as though it's just 26 cards, which, you know, that really takes some doing, right? And this is something you really got to be careful of, because magicians, this is what I call the standard restaurant performer dealing position. Where the fellow walks up to you at the table and says, "Hello there. I'm a deck of cards. And this is my magician, Aaron." When you're holding your cards like this is the center of the whole show. And so a lot of us have problems with people looking at our hands, you know, and they're looking at our hands because of all the tension we're holding in our hands. You ever see that old bit where, you know, the book says, look at the guy in the eye, and at that moment he'll look you in the eye, and at that moment you can do the move, but then it doesn't exactly work that way when you try it yourself, right? You look at the guy, he looks right at your hands. It's because they're like that. So what you want to try when you want to hold 52 cards and make it look like it's just 26 is to relax. Look at that. And it's just like we were talking about with tilt. What do you see from the right? How many cards do you see? A few, maybe? Right? Sorry, let me tighten it up here. A few? You see nothing there. You see nothing here. And nothing there. And of course, if you don't emphasize that, and you focus on the audience and the effect, you're really safe when you do it. So now let me lead you through the whole thing in the actual context. Say stop.
Stop.
Take that card, look at it, show it to everybody. I've already got my break under 6 cards here, right? So I say show it to everybody. Make sure they all see it. Look over there. And now here I am, totally covered, and I can't be caught really doing anything because it all looks fine. And there I am. I just have a few cards up there, and there I have the whole stack right here. Hi. Place back. Will you remember the card?
Yes.
Super important that you remember the card. Now at this point, what's fun is that. The bluff replacement subtlety, right? Puts that card right in the middle, and of course now it's at the 7th position from the top of the pack. So here's what's happening there. They say stop. She takes the card out, she shows it to everybody. I come back, I come to this position. She places it back here. Now, I say, and I drop both my hands back, will you remember the card? She says yes. At that moment, I bring my right hand up in front of my left hand. And this is where we are, right here. My right hand's in front of my left hand. And as my right hand moves back, I'll show you this one more time so you can see. Here's what it looks like from the front. Here's what it looks like from the right. Here's what it looks like even from the left. Oddly enough, more deceptive than you would imagine. Right? But what I'm doing is, I'm simply bringing my right hand back over my left, and when my right thumb crosses my left thumb, at this exact moment, when my right thumb crosses my left thumb lifts up, and I complete it. And as you see, it's literally very, very angle efficient, right? The left is the only one that's even a little tricky, and I'll give you a secret. When you're performing it for a big crowd of people that are surrounding you in all kinds of different altitudes, simply go to the fellow on the left, and have him take the card, show it to everybody, place it back. Will you remember it?
Yes.
And look, everyone's got a clean